afternoon to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. A little later in the show, we will be joined by national baseball writer Anthony Castrovince. We'll talk some Indians with him. He writes for MLB.com. Some interesting topics of discussion as far as the Indians go. But we begin today with Browns. Rookie minicamp out in Berea is underway. That means the entire draft class, some free agents and some tryout guys all in Berea going through some workouts with the Browns and their coaching staff. It was also the first time that a lot of the rookies met with the media. We will begin talking with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com in just a few minutes. But it was also the first time that second-round draft pick Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah talked to the media. And one of the things that was addressed was the reported heart condition that some felt had Owusu-Koramoah slipping down into the second round. Here is what he had to say about those reports.
Just seeing the reports, just based on something that is not necessarily 100% true. It's something where you just have to sit back and control the controllables. Something that the coaches here always talk about, just being able to control what you can control. And that was something that I couldn't control in terms of the reports that came out. Nevertheless, what I'm worried about, again, is the things that I'm dealing with in terms of whether my heart is or whether my heart is not. My heart is 100% sure. My heart is 100% healthy. And you can see that going through the protocol, going through the tests, going through the EKGs, and going through the past MRIs and things like that. So it's not an issue. It's not something I'm worried about, and I'm looking forward to just getting on the field and going.
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Browns second-round pick. Let's bring in Tim Bielik, our first-round pick, draft analyst as well as a reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. And, Tim, this was a guy the Browns wanted, and right away he addressed the medical questions. Seems to want to put them behind him once and for all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, coming out and saying it's heart's 100%. And obviously, the Browns seemed like they felt comfortable enough taking him, obviously, with that 52nd pick. And I think all the reports of the heart stuff go back to the fact that, we didn't have a true combine. You had several players going to Indianapolis in early April for testing. Those reports probably came from a team that wasn't happy with them. Maybe they were inconclusive in some way. And that's the disadvantage. Is not only was it later on in the process to the point where you couldn't bring players in, you couldn't have the checks on their own, but not every team has those. So you have incomplete medical reports. So that probably played a role a little bit in his fall to 52.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is Cleveland's a pretty good medical community to rely on as far as things go with both university hospitals and the Cleveland Clinic. So I think he's in a good place there. Now, the other thing that Owusu-Koramoah talked about is fitting into Joe Woods' defensive scheme, kind of being a guy that they can use in a number of ways.
Based on a principle in terms of no bark, all bite, is based on the principle of attacking the ball, based on principles of really relying on your brothers. And that's kind of a defense that I've always played in terms of Notre Dame and things like that. And I think as we see that Notre Dame defense was successful and going into this defense, it's a lot of, a lot of disguise. There's a lot of things that, coaches doing within the defense. And I think just me and my versatility is used perfectly within the defense in terms of his principles, in terms of what he's looking forward to push.
And the other thing that he pointed out, he was going to be the will or weak side linebacker. It gives Joe Woods a lot of versatility, and those are things this coaching staff likes.
Of course. I mean, that's definitely been the trend that we've seen throughout the offseason with Andrew Berry, going out and getting versatile players. John Johnson, for example, a guy who can play both safety spots. Troy Hill, outside and inside corner. And Owusu-Koramoah definitely fits into that mold of versatility. Obviously, putting him at linebacker, I think, is the best place for him right now, putting him on that outside position where you can move him around. I actually did watch the first game against Clemson to kind of see where they line him up, and it was fascinating where they put him. They put him in the slot at times. That's actually where he got his fumble recovery for a touchdown and also a forced fumble in that same game. They put him in the traditional linebacker spot in the box. They also put him in the edge. So I think Joe Woods has got a lot of different fun ways fun opportunities to try and use Owusu-Koramoah because he's a guy who seems like he can do a lot of things. It's just up to Joe Woods' creativity.
And the way he uses them probably will be different from game to game. So rookie minicamp underway out in Berea, as we said. It's the first time the coaches will get to get their hands on and see these guys in person. It's also the first time that the rookies get impressions of the coaching staff from a person-to-person meeting. Take a listen to what Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah thought about this coaching staff.
I guess a word would be, or a few words would be, attention to detail, I think is the thing that stands out when I just evaluate all the coaching staff here, from the special teams to the performance to the support staff. Everybody here is really keyed on the details within the field of study that they're in, whether it's medicals, whether it's athletics, or whether it's just support in terms of player development. Everybody's really focusing on the details, and that's something that I really like to key in on, with me being such an attentive player, with me being such a locked-in player in terms of the details. And I think I fit right in, just speaking on the coaching staff, and I think that's something that stood out and stands out to me. So.
And they were telling us after they drafted you that they got on that whiteboard right away to figure out how to use you. Have you gotten told how you're going to get used yet, or let in on any of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll be similar, not too similar to the position I was playing at Notre Dame. It'll be a will linebacker, and and that's kind of where I'm working at right now. On third downs and things like that. That'll add more into it, but for right now, that's what I'm studying.
And again, they're going to get him out there because he can run. You get him in coverage. Tight ends have killed this defense, not only last year, but for years. And this is a guy that, in theory, can cover those tight ends pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that stands out about what he said about the coaching staff in particular are those three words: attention to detail. And that seemed like obviously very insightful. I mean, we saw that a lot in 2020, that they were a much cleaner football team in terms of penalties, avoiding more of the simple mistakes that can lose football games. I mean, you don't get to the last eight of the NFL without having a staff that focuses on the details. And it's clear that made a difference last year. So it's good. It's interesting to hear that Owusu-Koramoah picks that up right away. I think that's a thing that bodes well for him.
Yeah, and that he likes the fact that they have the attention to detail because he feels it fits into what his strengths are. I would agree. The other thing is, and this is going to be a trend, I think, in the NFL and has been, he was asked about potentially being the lightest linebacker, and those things are going to get more and more that way as the league goes more and more into four wide receivers and passing. Take a listen to how he responds to being potentially the lightest linebacker in the NFL.
I don't think I'll be the lightest, but I can name a few. But even with that, it is an advantage in terms of how the league is evolving, in terms of a more pass-based league, in terms of more probably about 85% nickel third down defense. I think is an advantage because the offense, the way it's running in terms of more spread. I think it's an advantage because of how the league is moving forward. And just my skill set in terms of getting from point A to point B, in terms of slipping blocks, pressing blocks. And I think, it's something I'll be looking forward to.
It's also interesting, Tim, how he feels he fits in. And he is geeked up about the way they want to use him, it appears.
Yeah, and he's got a good sense of the way the NFL's been trending. Gone are the days, I think, when you have the 265-pound linebacker waiting to meet the running back in the hole and then tackle him for about a gain of 2 yards. That's not the way the NFL is right now. It's become more of a space and speed game, still trending a little bit behind what college football has been. But I think maybe Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah seems like maybe the prototype for where linebackers can go. I mean, you need a guy who could fly around the football field, as he talked about. He believes his speed is going to be an advantage. We don't know exactly what that speed is because he didn't test at his pro day in the 40, but obviously in his film, he moves all over the place. You have to be fast at that size to cover receivers and tight ends. So obviously he has the ability to do that. It's just the way the game is changing, and defenses just need to continue to find ways to try and catch up with these offenses.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of those 42, 35 games in the high 30s and low 40s. Again, his first taste of NFL football. So the question was asked, what do you expect from this rookie camp?
Man, what I'm expecting, like I was talking about before in terms of details, I'm expecting something that's fast, something that's, is packed with knowledge and packed with, new things that, I haven't yet seen. So I'm really expecting a lot of information over the weekend in terms of special teams, in terms of third downs, in terms of base defenses. I'm expecting a lot of information this weekend, and I'm really excited to get underway because this is something that I've been waiting for. This is something that I can't wait to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it holds.
And Tim, just listening to him, I could see where he would blow away an NFL personnel scouting department just with his poise and his intelligence.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, there are several times, obviously, talking about, the way he feels like he's understanding the game itself, talking about the staff's attention to detail, and even what he hopes to get out of minicamp. And I think that's the interesting thing, because we have to remember as well, last year's rookie class did not get an in-person rookie minicamp. So these guys are going to get a little bit of an advantage, some in-person work for the weekend. It's obviously already started out in Berea. They're not going to be able to go full 7-on-7 or whatever, just because they don't have the people, but just kind of working in those things and getting to learn the staff. I think it's going to be beneficial to him. And Owusu-Koramoah seems like a guy who just wants to learn those details, is willing to soak everything in. And I mean, you're right. It's understandable why a team would fall in love with his personality and the way he thinks the game. I think that's the type of thing you're looking for out of a guy who is going to play several positions. You need a guy who's cerebral, a guy who can diagnose things and really think football from a very high level and be able to process things. It seems like that's what's going on with Owusu-Koramoah. And from that perspective, he seems like a really good fit for the position.
Yeah, without question. Again, I think he'll fit in very, very nicely with the Browns. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, Tim and I will continue to talk rookie minicamp. We'll hear a little bit from Anthony Schwartz, his relationship with Jarvis Landry and how it's growing. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. Browns rookie minicamp underway out in Berea, and we continue to talk Browns and rookie minicamp with Tim Bielik from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. Another guy out in Berea is third-round pick Anthony Schwartz. Brings speed to the wide receiver position, something the Browns were looking for. He has also been working out with Jarvis Landry and was actually doing it before he was drafted by the Browns. He is definitely getting a graduate-level course in wide receiver in the NFL from Jarvis Landry?
Just training with a guy like Jarvis is very good for my sense and just for everything really, because he's a great guy. He's good to be around. He kind of was one of the instrumental players in changing everything, and is one of the leaders on the team, and just kind of being able to pick his brain and kind of take some tips from him on what to expect, what they're expecting out of me, and what I can do to improve myself and improve just making that jump to the next level has been very good. And then just seeing how hard he works out and trying to match him, trying to surpass him in terms of like working out, just showing him that like I'm here to work with you.
What's he told you about just playing in the NFL and how to be a successful player?
The main thing that he told me is just you got to take care of your body. Like he said, if he can go back, that's the one thing that he would do, just invest more in his body, taking care of it, because that can take you a long way. And then he said that, and then of course learning to play, staying in your playbook. So when you get called upon, when it's your time to go, you're not looking around looking lost. You're ready to go. And he's gonna tell you like what you need to know, and he's gonna make it easy to understand. Like he'll bring up examples and everything, just make it easy to understand. And then he always says at the end of the day, you're playing the same game you played your whole life. You just gotta do this much more.
Let's bring it back in. Tim Bielik, reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. And Tim, if you're going to pick a wide receiver's brain to learn stuff about route running and how to be a pro, good place to start is Jarvis Landry.
Exactly, and we saw what it did last year for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Pretty much the exact same situation to a T. Peoples-Jones working out with Landry. Donovan Peoples-Jones gets drafted to the Browns and obviously has very promising moments in 2020. I look at obviously working out with Jarvis Landry. He doesn't have the speed of Anthony Schwartz. He doesn't have the athletic tools of Donovan Peoples-Jones, but what he has is just the ability to get open. There's nuance to the game, the great hands that he has. Those are things you need as a receiver. It's not just about who can run the fastest or who's stronger than another guy. You have to have subtlety. You have to be able to be a technician. And that's where Jarvis Landry has really excelled. And the quote Schwartz said about taking care of the body from Jarvis Landry, I thought was interesting because, as we know, Jarvis Landry's only missed one game in his NFL career. So that tells you a lot about, the importance of being out there, being available, because, that's the number one thing you need from a football player is availability. Can you be there? So I thought that was an interesting thing that Schwartz took away. And if he can learn to protect his body out there, I think he's got a chance to do something pretty special in the NFL. Yeah,
and if he can pick Jarvis Landry's mind about running routes, that's going to be a huge upside. Okay, the other thing that Anthony Schwartz talked about is the things that he needed to show the coaches to get on the field, and he made a special point of mentioning blocking. Let's listen to Anthony Schwartz.
They just want to see more from me and not just being a speed guy, a guy that's just going to run verticals or run screens. They want to become a guy that can run every route in the route tree and that can develop into a top guy and not just a gadget player. We haven't talked into depth about that part of the game, but that's one of our 3 keys to playing receiver for us. And so I know it's something that I have to improve on. It's something that I want to improve on, and it will help me get on the field more, help me stay on the field more. And I can't wait to start that part and can't wait to just see the improvement from my college career to now in terms of blocking standpoint.
And Tim, when a receiver says he's willing to and wants to get better at blocking, coaches smile at that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to go back to Donovan Peoples-Jones with this. I think the first time people noticed him in the NFL was week 4 against Dallas. I remember watching that game and how well he blocked, and I thought that was interesting. He was out there, he was a willing blocker, and that's something that definitely coaches notice, because you got to do the team things to help out in other areas. It's not just, making the catch or, going 50 yards for a touchdown, whatever. You got to do the little things that help out your team. You got to do the unselfish things. So when Schwartz talks about blocking, that sticks out of my mind. And again, it goes back to that attention to detail thing, that he understands that he needs to be more well-rounded receiver, that he can't just be a gadget guy. Maybe that's how he's used early on as he adjusts to the speed of regular season NFL football. But eventually to succeed, he's got to be able to be a guy who can run a full route tree. Tim
Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Some folks nationally thinking the Browns are headed to the Super Bowl. And also, how undervalued is Baker Mayfield? Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns football with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. After the draft, after free agent signings, a number of people are now getting ready for Super Bowl predictions after the schedule release. Take a listen to who Skip Bayless thinks will be in the Super Bowl.
I am picking Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns to win the AFC and lose to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is about Baker coming of age, growing up right before your very eyes last year, went over those last 11 games without Odell. I'm knocking on wood for Odell that he comes back.
Odell gonna be
100%.
back.
I know, and I don't love that, but I love this team. I love its defense. I love what Baker did last year. He went 8-3 down the stretch with 20 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. He was, by Pro Football Focus, ranked 4th among quarterbacks over those last 11 games. Their offense was ranked 2nd over those last, really, it went up 2nd for the whole year. And what's not to like about the best offensive line in pro football, and I think the best running back duo in pro football? Is that,
yeah?
Can you argue with that?
Oh, yeah.
With Chubb and Kareem?
No.
I just don't know how you argue with that.
So let's bring back in Tim Bielik. And Tim, when you look at that, you see the respect that the Browns are getting for the roster that they have built.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly it's transformed in just 4 years. I mean, you go from 0-16 at the end of 2017 to now, just a couple weeks off the NFL draft, a team that, surprised a lot of people, not only made it to the playoffs, but made it to the second round and made the Kansas City Chiefs sweat a little bit on the way to the Super Bowl. And then they go and revamp the defense in the offseason. It definitely ratchets up expectations. And I do think there is a lot of reason to like the Browns as a team that can go to the Super Bowl. I kind of still have the Chiefs number one because I think Patrick Mahomes is just that special. Maybe a little extra motivated coming off that Super Bowl loss to Tampa Bay, and they rebuilt that offensive line. And then I see the Browns and the Bills kind of in a 2A, 2B type of situation. Obviously, the Bills have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, who were tremendous last season. That defense is really good. And the Browns obviously have that explosive offense that is pretty balanced. And the defense should only get better. It may not be great right away because the guys are going to need some time to gel. But I think by the second half of the season, it's certainly a defense that could be pushing for the top 10. So it's going to be a fun, I think, 3-team race in the AFC to see who goes to Los Angeles.
Yeah, again, I again, I agree that the transformation from 2017 to now is stunning, and they're all young too. It's not like they have aging veterans. They've done it building gradually. Another guy nationally that is on the Baker Mayfield train, and I really like, the more I hear Emmanuel Acho, the more I like him. Take a listen to what he says about Baker Mayfield's value.
Baker Mayfield is the most undervalued player in the NFL. Now, y'all track with me and fix your face real quick, because value is always predicated upon your location. You see, $1 million in my hometown of Dallas, Texas, it would get you an estate. $1 million where I currently reside in Beverly Hills, it'll get you a fixer-upper. But how about $1 million of the currency in my home country of Nigeria? See, that's $1 million naira. It wouldn't even pay for half of a mortgage where I currently live, because value is always predicated upon location. So if we really want to talk about Baker Mayfield's value, then we better thoroughly understand the location in which he's playing. Remember when he showed up to Cleveland? The coach, prior to his arrival, was 1-31 in his previous 32 starts. Remember when he showed up to Cleveland after that coach, Hugh Jackson, got fired? Baker Mayfield was coached by a man who hadn't even been an offensive coordinator for more than 8 games in his career, in Freddie Kitchens. Remember when Baker Mayfield got to Cleveland, the predecessors that came before him. We can look at the 4 first-round draft picks in Cleveland prior to Baker's arrival. You got 4 first-round quarterbacks. How'd they fare? Tim Couch, #1 overall pick, 22-37. Ugh. Brady Quinn, 3-9. Ugh. Brandon Whedon, 5-15. Johnny Manziel, 2-6. And then lastly, the Browns hadn't even sniffed the playoffs since 2002. But Baker Mayfield not only takes them to a playoff game, but wins one as well. If you really want to understand someone's value, if you really want to understand this man's value, then you better properly understand the context of what he's doing in the location, which is the Cleveland Browns.
I like everything that Acho said.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. And he talked about the playoffs, and that's where I think the undervalued thing comes into play. I mean, he mentioned, of course, winning his first playoff game. And I mean, you look at the other top quarterbacks in the AFC. Deshaun Watson lost his first playoff game. Lamar Jackson lost his first playoff game. Josh Allen lost his first playoff game. Baker Mayfield in his first playoff game won, and obviously they were buoyed by just an amazing 28-point first quarter burst. But in the playoffs, in his first postseason, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was the only bad throw he really had was that pick to Tyrann Mathieu in that divisional round against the Chiefs. But other than that, he was pretty sensational, considering obviously against Kansas City, they really manned up on those receivers, made it very hard for him to get completions, and he still did. He beat tight coverage a lot of times. So I think now that Mayfield is going into his second year in Kevin Stefanski's offense, he's got potentially 5 receivers capable of making plays in this offense. You got the 3 tight ends, of course, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant. You got the 2 running backs, and then you had Demetric Felton at times. There is no shortage of options for him to have. And obviously that offensive line is returning intact. So I think he's got an opportunity to have a lot of success, maybe borderline. He could be in the Pro Bowl discussion. I think it's too early to put him in All-Pro discussion or MVP discussion because of those quarterbacks in the AFC, but he's got a chance to really get closer to those guys, I think, this season.
Yeah, without question. I would agree with you as well. As always, appreciate the time. Great stuff. Tim Bielik, make sure you read him in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as on cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, shift gears a little bit here in Sports for CLE. We're talking baseball with national baseball writer from MLB.com, Anthony Castrovince. Straight ahead when Sports for CLE continues. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to shift gears a little bit, talk baseball, Indians baseball, with national baseball writer from MLB.com, Anthony Castrovince. Anthony, as always, appreciate the time. Most wins in baseball is 23. Indians have 20. How in the world are they doing it with this offense?
Boy, that's a great question. They win or they get no hit. It's kind of no in between with this particular team. And basically, if they score 3 runs, they have a pretty good chance of winning the ball game. Usually you peg that at 4 runs, but this pitching staff has been good enough to peg that at 3 runs. So that speaks to the quality of the pitching. And I think the bullpen in particular is the reason why Cleveland's where it's at, because you expected the rotation to be pretty good. Granted, it's a different look without Carlos Carrasco, and obviously it's evolved over time, losing some veteran guys, but they've been able to piece together a really good rotation. But the big difference maker this year is just the maturation of the bullpen very quickly. When you have James Karinchak and Emmanuel Clase solidifying those 8th and 9th inning roles as quickly as they have, it can really impact a team positively. The slimmest of leads can hold up. The smallest of run support can hold up, and that's been the case for this club so far. So they've had a good vibe from that standpoint. You still want to see more offensively. I think that goes without saying for them to really maintain and really be a contender. The White Sox are playing so well, and I think most people would agree that the White Sox are the better team top to bottom and probably have the best, especially with the way the Twins have played early this year, probably have the best chance of nailing down the AL Central. But, the Indians can still be competitive and still give the White Sox an honest run and perhaps vie for a wild card berth at the least if this pitching continues. But they got to get more offensively. And
I stand corrected, 21 wins. I did not count the one late last night that, of all people, Brian Shaw came in and nailed it down. So the bullpen, are you surprised they've been as good this early? I mean, a lot of young guys, and this whole roster is pretty young.
Yeah, when you say this early, yes, I am surprised. Now, I would have thought, if you would have told me going into the year that by the end of the year, we'll look at the Indians as having one of the best bullpens in baseball, I would have said, yeah, I can definitely see that coming, that, emerging over time. Clase didn't pitch last year, so, and even when he did pitch with the Rangers a couple of years ago, he's got that great stuff. He's got this, 100-mile-an-hour cutter, which is such a unique weapon. But, can he corral it? Can he harness it? Especially after missing a year. Karinchak was fantastic in the short season, but how's he going to look over a full season? And we still don't know the answer to that question, by the way. But, he can be wild at times. And then just the bullpen depth in general. Is it going to be there? What does Brian Shaw look like at this point in his career? Well, we've started to get some answers to those questions. Brian Shaw has been fantastic. He's thrown harder. Clase and Karinchak have been brilliant. Nick Sandlin has shown the depth of this system to come up and provide yet another look out of the bullpen. So I'm not surprised that they have a good bullpen. I am surprised at how quickly it's come together here at the outset of the season.
This young rotation, has it surprised you a little bit? And do you think it has the staying power? I mean, these are going to be guys that are really going to be counted on, other than Shane Bieber, to go an entire 200 innings for the first time really in their careers.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the early success, and that's even with Logan Allen. It didn't carry over. What he did in spring training was fantastic, and I was really intrigued by him as much as anybody. And it just it didn't work out at the beginning of the season. Doesn't mean it won't work out over time. So I guess I'm surprised that it's been as good as it has been, even with that weak link, I guess, in the back end. And Tristan McKenzie hasn't thrown as hard this year. He's had some struggles here and there. But Savali, Plesac, Bieber, they've been fantastic. And Sam Hentges comes up, and he looked pretty good in his first start. And I think there could be. We'll see how he develops over time, but his stuff is good. So they just keep churning out arms. I guess the biggest question is just the staying power because of the depth that will be tested. It just will. That's just the nature of baseball in 2021. It's the nature of baseball every season that you need 6 or 7 starters at a minimum to get through a season. But in 2021, everybody's dealing with injuries this year coming off the shortened season. The Indians haven't had that, really hit them in the rotation quite yet. It probably will. It's just the nature of the game. And so are they going to have the depth that they've had in recent years where guys like Plesac and Bieber and Savali come up and really augment the rotation right away? Are they going to have that next layer of defense that they've had in recent years? That remains to be seen.
Let's shift gears just a little bit. Jose Ramirez, Indians fans have known how good he is.
Yeah.
Are people starting to appreciate him a little bit more nationally now that, he's pretty much the centerpiece of this offense?
I hope so. He probably still doesn't get the love he deserves. This guy, he has all the makings of a star. There's the language barrier, quite frankly, plays a role in all of this, but this guy's a star. He's fantastic. When people were saying that the Indians traded their best player when they traded Lindor, I was thinking, I don't know, Jose Ramirez is still on the roster because he's outperformed Lindor in their careers to this point. And not that Lindor is not a great player. It's just that's how good Jose Ramirez is. He's finished third in the top 3 in the MVP voting 3 times. He could be trending towards that direction again because he's been obviously so instrumental for them where they don't have a lot of depth in this lineup. It's basically a Ramirez and Franmil Reyes oriented lineup. And, the rest is a lot of question marks. And Ramirez, he's as consistent as anybody in baseball. I know he had a one prolonged rut in his career. It was half of one season and half of another season. So basically one full season of struggle. But other than that, since this guy came up in 2016, really knocked people's socks off with what he was able to do at the big league level. He was Francisco Lindor's backup in the minor leagues. And you just thought, oh, he'll be a nice utility player. But I tell you, from the day he came up, he's strutting around the clubhouse. He's puffing his chest out, and you're looking like, who is this guy? This guy really believes in himself, and it shines through with his play. He has every reason to believe in himself because he's got that bat to ball ability, which is increasingly rare in today's MLB. And he's been so consistent with it, and he's just so fun to watch.
National baseball writer from MLB.com, Anthony Castrovince, and I. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to take a look at the first base situation for the Indians. And also, we'll talk a little bit about Francisco Lindor in New York. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back talking baseball with Anthony Castrovince. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking baseball with National Baseball reporter for MLB.com, Anthony Castrovince, also a native Northeast Ohioan and a native Clevelander. Anthony, when you look at the Indians, first base has been a question mark. Jake Bauers hasn't really done what you would want a first baseman to do offensively. How long do you think they can wait for Jake Bauers to start hitting?
Boy, I hadn't looked at his number. I didn't need to look at his numbers, but you pointed out before we went on air that the on base percentage and the slugging percentage are exactly the same, and neither one is good. 279. That's pretty ugly, and this is not a small sample in terms of what we've seen from him at the big league level. So, I understand. We were talking earlier about coming off the pandemic shortened season, and what we saw in Major League Baseball was teams wanted to really protect their inventory, particularly on the pitching side, but also on the position player side. And a guy who's out of options, you want to get another look at him just to make sure, to see what you have before you make him available to other clubs. They've seen what they have, I think, with Jake Bauers. It's not pretty. So I can't imagine he's the future at first base or any position, quite frankly. And Bobby Bradley played great in spring training, really earned the job in spring training, but the options, the contract status played into their decision-making at that time. Bradley's off to a slow start at Columbus, whatever that means. It's 1 week of play. It's hard to know in coming off of a month at the alternate site. But I can't imagine the leash is particularly long with Jake Bauers. There are other options. Owen Miller is a name that's getting a lot of attention from the fan base just because this guy had a great spring training camp and he's had a great start for Columbus, albeit in 1 week. But that's a natural hitter who, maybe he'll get his opportunity before long.
Another name that's become available, cleared waivers, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, is Albert Pujols. Now, it would be major league minimum that you would have to pay him because after he clears waivers, Angels are on the hook for his guaranteed big money. Is that a guy you look at? And what did you see with him when he was playing for the Angels?
So it's probably not going to happen. Albert wants to play every day. That's kind of where things came to a head with the Angels, where he was playing first base on a regular basis. That was not the way they drew it up. They had injuries in their outfield, and they moved Jared Walsh, who would have been their first baseman, to the outfield, and they had Albert at first base, and it just wasn't the best arrangement for them defensively or offensively, for that matter, at this stage of Albert's career. You can make an argument for it. Now, Cleveland's first base production is abysmal, and Albert Pujols would, in all likelihood, be an improvement, even at this stage of his career. His offensive numbers with the Angels have obviously really tallied off. He's not the hitter he was with St. Louis. He's not even the hitter he was a few years ago with Anaheim, for that matter. But his exit velocity was up this year, and maybe there's something there. Maybe there is an argument to be made for bringing in his presence and what he can mean to a club, not just with his own production, but just kind of showing the way for a predominantly young team. I think there is actually an argument for that. I just don't think it's something they're going to pursue, given that, they're turning over this roster. They're trying to see, you have to see what you have in this system. They're in contention, and that's great. and I hope it continues. I know they hope it continues, but they're at a moment where they need to see what they have. And that began with Jake Bauers. It could continue with Bobby Bradley or perhaps Owen Miller. And just, Albert Pujols, we know what the ceiling is there at this stage of his career. It's just not very high, even when you account for what he would bring to, perhaps giving some good advice to some young players. We just seen the game kind of go away from that value, and just teams want to see what they have in-house. And I think that's the way Cleveland will continue to do it.
The other thing, you mentioned a guy that is likely to be traded from Chicago, Kris Bryant. You had 13 landing spots. Indians were one of them. Again, would make sense, but probably not likely, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I put them in as you said, 13 teams with almost half the league, which speaks to Kris Bryant's versatility, right? And he's a third baseman who's also capable of playing every position in the outfield or first base, or for an American League team, you have the DH spot where you can rotate guys and just work them in the lineup in many different ways. So he'll be really interesting. He's having a great year for the Cubs. The Cubs, maybe they'll keep him. Maybe they'll stay in contention and keep him. But I think a lot of people are expecting them to continue their transition and to trade Kris Bryant this summer. And among those 13 teams, I divided them into categories. I put Cleveland in the category of unlikely but intriguing, because shoot, they could definitely get him at bats. Obviously, third base is accounted for with Jose Ramirez, but the corner outfield spots and first base and Franmil's at DH. But just by and large, there's at bats that you could give Kris Bryant in a lineup with only two guys of contributing above average offensive performance. You could find a way, and the prospect cost of this is not going to be that punitive. We've seen in recent years for position players who are rentals. It's just, you can make that deal. The Indians are pretty loaded in their system with 21 and under talent, and the Cubs are starting a rebuild process a bit. You saw that with the Yu Darvish trade, where it was built around 19-year-olds prospects, basically. So the big thing is the money, right? He makes $19.5 million this year. You'd have to pay whatever the prorated portion of that is based on when the deal is done. So you're looking around, maybe $8-9 million bucks. Look, Cleveland has the lowest payroll in the game. So on one hand, you just don't expect them to shell out that kind of money. On the other hand, hey, they have the lowest payroll in the game. So there's room in the budget, maybe. So again, I'm not counting on this happening, but it would be a lot of fun if they were still in the mix and their pitching has been really good. And if it continues to be good into July and you're in contention, boy, that would be a good way to improve an offense that needs the help.
Yeah, without question. Another guy you've mentioned a couple of times, Owen Miller. What is it, and he's a guy that has played all over the infield.
Right.
What are the Indians, what is their feeling about him, and what are they thinking with Owen Miller?
So, the avenue for him to get his at-bats that's clear is first base and maybe shortstop, but definitely first base. He's played like one game of first base in the minor leagues, but it's something you can look into. What they feel about him is this guy's just a natural hitter. He gets the bat to the baseball. It's just that simple. And in today's game, you appreciate that more than ever. Strikeout rate in Major League Baseball is around 25%. You have roughly a quarter of plate appearances in the major leagues ending in a strikeout. So when you have a kid who has that unique ability to get the bat to the ball in this era, it's special, it's fun. And they had him in spring training, and he really impressed the big league coaching staff. Terry Francona just, raved about him. So he's going to get his time at some point this season, particularly if he keeps, hitting over 400 in AAA, as he's done in the first week or so of games. He'll get his opportunity. Where that opportunity will be, I don't know. Maybe it'll be shortstop, maybe it'll be first base, maybe he'll be a guy who comes up and bounces around the infield. But if you hit, they'll find a place for you.
Yeah, without question. Currently, they have Yu Chang in that role, and Yu Chang is another guy that has not hit. So you could see that. I believe they have to open up a man on the 40-man for Owen Miller, though. So that's one of the gymnastics they have to jump through in that room. Let's talk a little bit about Francisco Lindor. Starting to hit the ball a little bit for the Mets. As I say that, he's still around 200. And that is, New York is not a place you want to struggle out of the gate after you've signed a big contract. I mean, it's been pretty brutal for Francisco Lindor.
It has. It's definitely been a transition. And as we know well in Cleveland, he had a subpar year last year, not to this level. The struggles were not to this level, but so you take a subpar year and then, a new place and a big contract, and it can snowball on you, and it has on him. There's no doubt. And you're right. He's getting his hits in recent days. He's still not hitting the ball with much authority. Still not a lot of extra base prowess, which is what, when he was at his best paired with Jose Ramirez, and those guys were just such a dynamic duo in terms of the extra base productivity. We're just not seeing that from Francisco Lindor so far at the very early stage of this long Mets contract. But, and I'm not making a big deal about a slow start as a slow start, and what are you going to do? But this just speaks to that mindset of, if you're a small market team like Cleveland, you can't pay a guy 25% of your player payroll, one guy, because look what happens if he struggles. Think how terrible that would look, and the very people who wanted desperately for Cleveland to give this guy all the money in the world would be the same people ripping him to shreds right now, because your entire world would revolve around this guy's performance. It's just not healthy for anybody. It's not healthy for him or a ball club. You have to spread it around. And, the Mets are just in a better position to do that. But even they are not in a great position if Francisco Lindor continues to struggle the way he has. So I expect him to turn it around, but there's no doubt that moving to that ballpark, it is an adjustment. It's going to affect his offensive numbers for the bulk of his time there. It's just a different place to hit. And New York is just a different place in general. When you get off to a slow start, it can kind of become its own entity, the pressure of that.
Is there something real to that? Because you've seen it, and it resonates a little bit more with the Yankees, probably because they're in the American League and Indians fans follow them. There have been guys like Sonny Gray that went there and just couldn't seem to deal with the day in and day out scrutiny that you get when you're playing in New York, when you're playing baseball in New York.
Everything is just more. Francisco Lindor is an incredible personality. He really is. And you saw him deal with, there was a skirmish between him and his teammate, Jeff McNeil, and he did this incredible acting performance about, they were telling the media that they were arguing about whether it was a rat or a raccoon, under the ballpark there. And that's just him. That's his personality. He's fun. He's engaging. But, you don't get the requests in Cleveland that you get in New York. There's just more coming his way and has come his way from a marketing standpoint, from a media standpoint, just public relations standpoint, community stuff. It's just more. And that's something he's going to have to deal with. And I'm sure he knows that, and he's learning that along the way. And then you get into the back pages when you struggle the way he has this first month plus. It's just different there than here. Here, there's really no pressure to play in Cleveland. I'm sorry, there's just not. You deal with me, and you deal with a few other writers who are there on a daily basis. There's not much to it, really. We're pretty easygoing here. So, I believe that is a real thing. And some guys rise to that, and I think Francisco Lindor has all the tools to rise to that. But he's finding, like so many others have, that there's just more attention on you, and there's more asked of you when you play in New York City. It's just the fact of the matter, whether it's the Yankees or the Mets. And then the Mets just have their own thing going on where, there's kind of a dark cloud over that franchise in general with bad luck, injuries and whatnot. But, that's not his doing, but he'll have to deal with just kind of the Mets angst that comes with that.
With big contract in New York comes big expectations, and
responsibility.
Yeah, without question. Anthony Castrovince, national baseball writer for MLB.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, make sure you read Anthony Castrovince, a national writer for MLB.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will be back to wrap it up here on Sports for CLE. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. Rookie minicamp underway out in Berea. It's Kevin Stefanski's first time to get this year's draft class in person, out on the field and run through some drills. So Stefanski and the rookies will be going all through the weekend. It will wrap up Sunday. Kevin Stefanski talked about what he wanted this year's rookie class to take away from this minicamp, as well as the teaching opportunities.
Yeah, it was a really good teacher-student ratio out there at a few positions. So yeah, it's really important. I think those guys are lucky and they're getting some high-quality instruction from the guys. And to your point, there's one guy in line. So you really slow down and you focus on that rep, and then you take a couple seconds off and you do the drill again. So it really slows you down. It doesn't look like any other rookie minicamp that I've certainly been a part of, but that's okay. We really are getting a lot out of it.
And, when the weekend's over, could you just summarize what you hope to take away, from this weekend? Obviously, it's too early to draw any conclusions or anything like that, but just from your perspective with the limited camp, just what are you hoping to come away from this weekend with?
Yeah, we want to teach the systems to these guys, offense, defense, special teams, and we want them to understand what they're doing, and then ultimately see if they can contribute, and that'll be based on what they can handle. We also want to get to know these young men, and we want them to get to know their teammates and get to know their coaches. So really acclimating them to how we do things around here.
Kevin Stefanski talking about rookie minicamp, which is out and it's underway out in Berea. We'll go through the weekend. And really keep in mind that they didn't get a chance to get the individual attention, the one-on-one meetings with these guys because there was no combine. So that's something they get to do in person out in Berea. It was the first practice for all of the Browns rookies, including a guy that will be paid plenty of attention to out in Berea. First-round pick, Greg Newsome, cornerback, who has a chance to come in and certainly play, maybe even start. Newsome talked about what it was like to go through his first NFL practice.
It was great. I was trying to embrace the moment, and I had to realize that myself, like, this is my first NFL practice, so it felt great to be out there with the guys, just getting around them, learning new, techniques and coverages and things like that. But overall, I thought day one went pretty well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how did you do personally? Coach said you guys kind of did a walkthrough before the practice, just to kind of. Were there any mistakes? Did you have a good day overall?
Yeah, I think I had a okay day. I definitely made some mistakes. Just getting used to different techniques and things like that. I don't consider that making mistakes is not okay. So I would say I had an okay day. But I got 2 more practices and I'll be ready to fix those soon.
Greg Newsome, Browns first-round pick, talking about his first NFL practice. We will have plenty on the entire rookie minicamp Monday afternoon as the Browns go through this, and it wraps up Sunday. So we'll wrap it up Monday here on Sports for CLE. Also want to remind you, Indians out west, they will play 4-game series against the Mariners, Game 2 tonight. We will see you again Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday.